Okay. Let's see. Why don't we, just like last time, we'll just, everyone put their introductions in the chat. Go ahead and do that right now. And so if you're just joining us, we're just putting our introductions in the chat. And then let's just go towards the first order of business. Sorry, our usual chair, Councilmember Rodney Tanaka from Gardena can't be with us today. There is actually a, I forgot what it's called, but it's like some sort of city conference in San Diego today. So a lot of our city managers and folks won't be able to join us because they're at that meeting, at that conference. So it's I'll be leading the task force today. And so the first order of business is to receive and file the July 6th meeting notes. Can we get a motion to do that? Councilmember Montero, do you want to do a motion to just receive and file the meeting notes?
Well, because I was not at that meeting, so
Oh, that's right.
I don't want to do it. I could do it, but I don't want to do it.
We can just receive and file them.
Okay. We'll just do that then. Okay, the next order of business we have, so Nancy Wilcox, from many of you know, she is the co-chair of the South Bay Coalition to End Homelessness. She has stepped down through her many years of service. We gave her some special gifts and a certificate at a recent event that we held. But she wanted me to read. She couldn't be with us today because she is actually doing something with her family, which is great. But she wanted me to read like a special speech that she provided. I feel like this is like an Oscar acceptance speech. But so she just wanted to say, dear city partners, now that I've stepped down from the South Bay Coalition to End Homelessness, I've had an opportunity to reflect on our collaborative work to address homelessness. From participating in your homeless task force meetings, providing inputs into your homeless plans, and engaging with your operational efforts, I want to thank you for allowing us to be an active contributor in these activities. Lastly, I want to express my deep appreciation for your commitment to ensure our homeless neighbors are enumerated during the homeless count. We were the very first service planning area to cover 100% of our census tracts back in 2015. And with your leadership, we've accomplished this every year since then. Although I won't be formally involved with the county anymore, please know I'm always available as a resource to you for this important activity. We will be generating the South Bay's city one-pager data sheets once again for the 2022 results when they are officially released. You can find them on our website next week. I wish for you only the best as you continue to work together to assist our homeless neighbors. And that's from Nancy Wilcox, who's stepping down from the coalition. So yeah, she will be missed. I don't know how we're going to do the homeless count next year without her. It's I don't even want to think about it. It's not going to be pretty. She was just so instrumental in that.
Bronson,
yes.
You want to also announce that we are still looking. Nancy's looking, Mark's looking for anybody who knows of somebody or has an interest in stepping into those enormous shoes to help with the coalition. It doesn't necessarily have to be one person. It could be a committee of people, but right now, nobody has contacted her with an interest. And I don't know about you, but just her newsletter was a fountain of information. So hopefully somebody will be able to step up or suggest somebody.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lori. So with that, oh, just by the way, the homeless count numbers are coming out tomorrow. So we will be looking forward to that. Next up, we have updates from our service providers. Let me put up the one from Path. Second. All right. Courtney, do you want to take it away?
Yes, hello, good afternoon, everybody. It's Courtney here and Anna from PATH. We also have Haley and Kim on the line. I want to introduce Kim as our new director over SPOS 5 and 8. That's Kim D'Amico. So she's been with PATH for a number of years, and Haley is still our regional director. I think that's her title. Anna's going to go through the update today. And yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna. I am the program manager for the SPOT 8 outreach program team. So this is PATH outreach South Bay team. We assist individuals, single adult individuals 25 and over. The picture on our right hand side was the team for a week. We have members going and coming, but we have some new team members. We have Sean and Lydia, who recently joined as of July and August. Next slide. We made some modifications to the schedule. Some of the cities will alternate, so some of them will be attended bi-weekly based on needs and LA Hub requests. Other cities based on the needs as well and LA Hub requests will be attended weekly. So for Monday, we're still going into Gardena, but we've also added West Athens and Westmont, Wilmington, Redondo Beach. Tuesdays is Harbor City or Harbor Gateway, Lomita and Lawndale. Torrance, Wednesdays is Torrance, Carson, Hawthorne, Delaware, and Redondo Beach. Thursday is Lenox, El Segundo, and Redondo Beach. And then Friday, we mainly use it for documentation and office time, but we are still able to go on the field if needed. Next slide. We're still using the LA Hub website, la-hub.org, and we're still receiving some requests. Next slide. For July and August, we only received 11, which is a little less than what we received previously. So we have seen a decrease in the requests we've been receiving. In Carson, we received 2, in Gardena, we received 5, in Harbor Gateway, we received 1, and in Torrance, we received 3. Next slide. Some of the community connections that we have continued or newly established are listed here. One of the new ones that we've established this past 2 months is a relationship or direct contact with the Carson PD or the sheriffs. Last month, we established a joint outreach between ourselves, Harbor Interfaith, and the sheriffs in Carson, which took place earlier today, and we had a successful encounters with various individuals in the city that were hidden. They were in secret locations that we didn't know about, but it was a good day. We've also continued or kind of made a little bit stronger the joint outreaches we have with the Venice Family Clinic mobile team. Right now we're in the city of Wilmington. We're gonna try to change each city each month. So for the month of September, it will be focused on the city of Wilmington. Next slide.
And you guys are also doing Lawndale now once a week, right?
Yes. That one is more of a joint, it's not a joint outreach, it's just more of general outreach service provider.
Oh, I see, it's down here.
Yes. So yes, as Ronson was mentioning, we have made official connections with the city of Lawndale. We did have one joint outreach event. Unfortunately, we realized that it would be more effective if we did it on our own. The participants or the individuals experiencing homelessness seem to be a little bit intimidated by the city staff, and they weren't really receptive to our approach when we were with them. So we decided it would be best to have PATH team be on their own and then just have like referrals or location referrals by the city staff. Yeah. So these are some of our numbers year to date in between SD2 and SD4 as of September and October. So again, we are somewhat new to the fiscal year. It's about a regroup, restart. So these are the numbers that we've had so far for this upcoming fiscal year.
In the past fiscal year.
In the past fiscal year.
Okay.
And then some of our current efforts that we've had, we've continued making referrals. Unfortunate for rapid rehousing, we are no longer able to make direct referrals for rapid rehousing, which is now called time limited subsidy. But we had a total of 21 direct referrals. We continue making referrals to tiny home and pallet shelters with a total of 15, 14 of those referrals being to the tiny homes in Torrance. And we continue obviously as well interim housing referrals, which is up to date right now, 36 referrals. The housing vouchers are still kind of in the loops with our participants. We're no longer able to submit housing interest forms, so the number remains at 75, but we have continued to receive matches and issuance. So far, we've had 42 matches and 19 issuance. So we are hoping to receive at least a few more, but it's still uncertain as to when they're gonna resume or if they even are gonna resume as normal. All right. And then some of the challenges that we are still facing is with staffing. As I mentioned earlier, we have gained 2 new staff members, Lydia and Maishan, but we've also lost 1 last month. And we're about to lose another one this upcoming week. So it's like we gain 2, but we lose 2 at the same time. At the shelters, they're usually at their max capacity right now or under COVID lockdown, quarantine, not accepting any new referrals or individuals to their shelters. So that creates a burden for the individuals looking for a bed or an emergency bed. There has been a lack of interim housing availability as well as affordable housing, especially for seniors in need. That has been a struggle that I think teams across Spot 8 has faced. Not having enough resources for seniors. And as well, another challenge, Street to Subsidy, which is a housing subsidy for individuals directly on the street, was a hold up until September 1st. So after September 1st, we can finally start using Street to Subsidy to be able to house individuals who are still in need of rental subsidies. And then again, emergency housing vouchers have been paused indefinitely.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we're really worried about at the COG, or at least I'm very worried about, is that coming out of the pandemic, we had an influx of federal, money for, for these subsidies as well as the HV vouchers, and now all that stuff is going away. We're kind of back to our old tools in our tool shed, and there's not that much of it available. And Anna's spot on. We are seeing an increase in seniors on fixed income. What's happening is a lot of people are taking advantage of the high housing prices and they're selling their properties, and that's displacing seniors who are renting those properties, and so the high housing market is really causing a strain and displacement on some of our more vulnerable populations.
Yeah, very true. All right, so this is one of our success stories. This is from Valerie. She was a direct referral from Pastor Jefferson in Hawthorne. He usually calls Courtney or texts her asking for assistance, and we either provide direct referrals for the individual, meaning we connect them to the proper agency to provide the best support, or we help them find housing or income or whatever they need. But for Valerie, we were able to house her. She is a retired sheriff who was sleeping in her car in the city of Hawthorne. Due to her fixed income and lack of affordable housing, the team was able to house her in a SRO unit in Wilmington, where she will now receive retention case management and will explore other housing options as well. She wasn't open to sharing her picture, but she did say she was finally happy to have a bed and a space to move around in, not just her car. All right. And then for this success story, this is Tylen. Tylen was encountered by various outreach teams in Redondo Beach, meal givings. He would attend pretty much everyone we would attend. He wouldn't make contact with us much at first. It was just like a hi bye type thing. Eventually, once we started talking to him more and just getting to know him as a person instead of like a participant or someone experiencing homelessness, he kind of opened up and disclosed that he was a Native American individual. So that led the team to connect him, as well as with the assistance of Lila from Redondo Beach, to connect them to the United American Indian Involvement, the UAII, where he entered a detox program and is now completing rehab From there, Dylan will be placed in transition into sober living while waiting for permanent housing. And that's him with his new case manager as well. All right, and then these are just some pictures of the outreach efforts. On the left-hand side, it's a joint outreach in Gardena with LASA. And then as you can see, it's popping down from a makeshift they had made under a bridge. So they literally make their stuff or their home.
Oops. Sorry, Anna. I actually muted you.
No worries. I can stop if you want. No worries. But yeah, yeah, this is just some outreaches that we've done throughout the past 2 months. And yeah. The one on the very far right-hand side, that one is right next to a freeway. So if you can see, as one of our past team members is walking, she's walking into multiple tents that individuals have in place. And this is in the city between, or this is in the border between Lenox and Inglewood. Lenox encampment was displaced, and so the individuals have dispersed all over the surrounding areas. We're still trying to locate all of our participants that we had encountered in Lenox, but we haven't had much luck yet. So we're still working on that. We've had alerts on them. But this is our team locating one of our individuals right next to a freeway location. Next slide. All right.
So future considerations, we definitely are going to continue to advocate for shelters within the city. And then as we've driven around, we are seeing like a lot of empty land. And so we're always like, oh, that could be a place for tiny homes, or that could be a place for permanent housing. So we just ask that the cities look into that. I don't know the rules of land use and all that, but we see a lot of land that appears to be unused that could be used for housing. And then we also ask that the cities continue to encourage property owners to work with the housing vouchers, even though, they're supposed to, but, they find loopholes. And then continue to use LA HOP for outreach requests, and senior focused affordable housing. A lot of the senior housing that we do get is, their wait list. And so, if there's any future considerations of housing projects and, coming up, if there could be like a focus on prioritizing seniors, that would be great. And I think that's everything. So feel free to reach out to me or Anna if you need anything. And then just a little plug, we also have prevention services available. So feel free to send me an email with the person's contact information, and we'll reach out to see how we can prevent people as well from entering homelessness. Thank you. You're muted, Ronson.
Thanks, Anna, and sorry, I'm having mute problems today. Thanks, Anna and Courtney. Roberto, you mentioned in the chat a new voucher. Can you talk about that really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for your time and attention. Yeah, basically, HUD published on August 16th a stability voucher program application. So if you're part of a public housing authority, you should definitely be looking at this opportunity. The application deadline is October 20th, and basically it's similar to the EHVs. There's restrictions on who's eligible, and it mainly targets the homeless population, similar to the EHV program. As that program is phasing out, this is a new program that we can all apply to so that we can keep those homeless referrals in process. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. If you've overutilized your EHVs, I think this is the next iteration of EHV in so many words. But yeah, glad to answer any questions.
Well, thanks for the heads up on that one. All right. Any questions for Courtney or Anna? Okay, so moving on, if you haven't done so already, feel free to put your introduction in the chat. We have a
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
But thank you. I'm Al Marasucci, State Assembly member. I'm new to this this task force, and so I'm trying to catch up with everyone. But you know, let me know if this is a question that might be more appropriate for another time or place. But you know, the last presentation, you know, you talked a lot about the different options, the subsidies, the shelters, the temporary housing, the need for more senior housing, et cetera. You know, and I've always asked, from a policy perspective, you know, should we be prioritizing, like, putting more money into to shelters and tiny homes, you know, especially given that you know, building housing, as far as I've seen and heard, you know, it takes an average of 3 to 5 years to build a unit. Costs range anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million per unit. So, you know, I realize that this is it might be a higher level policy question, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this time, but I just want to throw that out there and see if this would be appropriate for me to ask at this point.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. Haley, Courtney, do you guys have?
You know, it's hard. Permanent housing ends homelessness. And so that is the solution. What our cities are willing to do to help along the way to permanent housing is something that we know has to be individualized per city, space, and the culture of the city at the moment when the funding comes down. But I saw Sherry and Lori's head nod with me. Housing ends homelessness. And the tiny homes have been amazing. Sherry and her team, it's just been amazing to watch it succeed. It was a new resource. And so it's great to be able to send people inside, but that's not the end of it. They have to go on to permanent housing. And so I think it's also really important in this area to look at our individualized cities and kind of respect what they can offer, and work there. And I think it's great when the cities partner up to help each other out because of space or because of money or because of culture. And so I think if we can get together and figure out what's what in each city and what each city can lend, but units and landlords and apartments is what we need.
You know, I've heard that response before, but I guess my frustration is that, you know, it's a matter of priorities, and you know, I understand that tiny homes are just interim housing, but it just seems like a matter of priority in terms of what we try to put up first in order to try to get people off, you know, get a roof over their head and get a clean bed for them and a safe space. But anyway, yeah, if anyone has any suggestions for any follow-up discussions on that, I would appreciate it. But thank you.
Just to quickly chime in, Haley and I always do this piggyback thing where we just finish each other's sentences. But, you know, to her point too, you know, permanent housing is going to end homelessness too. But I think, you know, we're at a point, to your point, where it's taking 3 to 5 years to get through the process of having these projects come to fruition. And I think, you know, I can't remember, it was 2 or 3 years ago, there was, you know, a creative competition on how to get these kind of permanent projects stood up. And some of the ideas that they talked about were the containerized homes, where they were more prefabbed, put together. But I think some of the other things too that we have to look at is anytime we use any kind of government funding, we're also dealing with prevailing wage, which drives up the cost of that construction.
Yeah.
And then always the other, you know, if you want to hear a developer, you know, bang their head against the wall, is all the permitting process.
Mhm.
You know, if there was a streamlined, more effective way to get that process. So if you put in a bathtub, you have to wait for an inspector to come out. If you do the wiring, you have to wait to come out and get it, and it doesn't happen, you know, immediately. So I think there's a lot of elements to how these permanent solutions come about that can be really looked at. And I think the beauty of having projects with supportive wraparound services is that there is that inherent support where people don't fall out of housing. We talk about these vouchers, and I think we can all just unilaterally say it's great to have this resource. However, we're competing in one of the lowest rental vacancy markets here in LA County at probably just shy of 3%, with people that have better rental histories, that have better credit ratings. And every time that you put somebody into a more individualized apartment, it spreads our resources thinner for when we go out and try to do stabilization and retention with those individuals. I think, you know, in the absence of nothing, it's great. But I think, you know, looking at how do we build, you know, permanent supportive housing more cost effectively and getting them stood up quicker.
Sherry and Haley, this is a great discussion, which we don't have time to go into much more detail, but I think I read this morning, I think it was SB 679. The governor is getting ready to hopefully sign something on housing, but one of the hiccups that was a holdup on that was the prevailing wage and the unions pushing for, you know, so finally they compromised on that. So Assembly Member, we need to look at those legislation and find out what the holdups and the barriers are to moving forward. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd say thank you to the state for Project Home Key. I think that's been, I mean, I think nationwide, that's been a model of how our state was able to successfully turn a tragic situation, the pandemic, into something very positive. And really looking forward to Project Home Key 3.0 and how we can use Home Key as a way to gain more permanent housing. So I'm glad you chimed in, Assembly Member. Actually, I was going to announce a slight change to our agenda. I know you don't come to our meetings very often, but when you do, it's such an honor, and we want to give you a chance to kind of give us a legislative briefing. Would you like to do that now?
Sure. You know, please stop me. I don't want to disrupt your agenda, but I appreciate the give me an opportunity. I mean, I wanted to join this mostly to hear from all of you and to try to get a better sense of what exactly is happening in our communities. But I guess I can just give a quick overview on what's been happening in Sacramento. You're probably more aware of it than I am in terms of the details, but I can give you a rundown of what I see or some of the highlights. And of course, everyone's been talking about the over $12 billion that the governor of the legislature has been allocating for housing and homeless funding over over 2 years. This year, maybe the biggest headline in terms of the homeless space in terms of legislation was the recent passage of the Care Accords proposal that I know has been controversial for civil liberties and disability rights advocates. The whole issue of to what extent is going to be voluntary mental health treatment plans, but I along with overwhelming majority of my colleagues in the legislature supported the basic concept. Of course, like everything, the big challenge is going to be to make sure that the program, as it's going to be rolled out, has the necessary funding to make it successful. But I think the basic concept is something that many of us can find a lot of agreement and common ground on. That folks that really are so incapacitated, where they're not able to help themselves, where their family members are not able to get them to seek the mental health treatment that they need, and limited to those that are on the I forget the technical term, the schizophrenic spectrum, I believe was something along those lines. But it's really, the folks that we all, can envision in our minds, the folks that are in such bad shape that they can't help themselves. But, before they end up either in prison or in jail or in a LPS conservatorship, that we want to have a system where they can, a court can review their needs after evaluation and prescribe this care plan that's supposed to be providing these wraparound services for those with the greatest need before they end up in prison or jail or in LPS conservatorship. So that's been a focus for much of the discussion in the homeless space. Locally, I'm very happy and supportive of some of the new tiny home projects. I represent the South Bay from Gardena down through Palos Verdes, and I was very excited to see the new Torrance tiny home village. There was a great article in the Daily Breeze, I think today's paper, that hopefully everyone all saw. But it seems to be a good success in terms of providing that interim housing. I was able to deliver $5.5 million in state funding for a Torrance homeless community support center that the city of Torrance is planning. And, as we start rolling out the details of that, we can report on that. I also am a big fan and supporter of the Redondo Beach tiny home, as well as their homeless court program. And I was able to secure some state funding for additional state funding for the Redondo Beach homeless court program. Again, a good success in terms of, taking these low-level infractions, quality of life type offenses, and rather than using the criminal process for more incarceration, to use it as an intervention opportunity to provide wraparound services, not only mental health, but substance abuse, housing navigation, job opportunities, criminal offense expungement, just again, trying to use that as an opportunity to provide the wraparound services that we all recognize are necessary in order to address the complex challenges that many homeless folks face. You all know better than I do. So that's my quick overview. But again, I'm here to listen. If Sherry, I appreciate your comment about in order to build more affordable housing, why are we putting all these requirements like prevailing wage or skilled and trained workforce? I mean, I have to say that I actually spoke on the assembly floor about this, but I think we spent a lot more time debating on the difference between a prevailing wage and skilled and trained workforce than we did talking about, what it's going to take to actually build more affordable housing. But unfortunately, that's part of the politics that's driving a lot of the housing funding, the housing spending in Sacramento. And we have to deal with the realities of the politics in order to get things done in Sacramento, whether we like it or not. Streamlining the permitting process for housing, I am open to any and all ideas. I know that there have been numerous attempts. There have been some CEQA exemptions, some CEQA streamlining bills that we've passed in recent years, but clearly we need to continue to streamline the process and make it more affordable so that we can build more affordable housing, not just the permanent, but the interim, the shelters, as part of the, again, as all of you know better than I do, the portfolio of solutions to address the complex issues, a complex issue that is homelessness. So that's probably more talking than I intended to. I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any criticisms or suggestions.
I think Roberto had a question. Yeah, your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your time and being here today. Assembly member, sorry, my phone is ringing. Yes, you brought up some great points, and as we have this meeting where land values are going up exponentially, and that's what's being very cost prohibitive for a lot of developers. So first, I guess I should introduce myself. I'm the HUD programs manager for the city of Inglewood and the California Association of Housing Authorities president. One of the things we deal with a lot is land use restrictions, right? And like when developers come forward, there's a lot of entitlements that they have to go through. There's funding, helping the project, with their capital stack. And so one of the most popular things to do right now is to layer a project with project-based vouchers. That is federal funding that will help a project pencil out. Not sure if you're aware of the recent legislation that was brought forward by Representative Pineda, the Housing Improvement Act, which will increase the project-based voucher cap from 20% to 50%. So that is like one of the legislation that's being moved forward right now that could significantly impact or help projects pencil out throughout the region and nationwide if that goes forward. We deal with a lot of hurdles, the vacancy rates in different jurisdictions, the land values. But there are some, promising legislation out there. Another thing that's going on right now is a lot of jurisdictions are forming housing trust funds and joint powers authorities to get additional funding from the state. That will definitely help projects pencil out and create more local control of some of the funding that a lot of these developers need. A lot of times it's gap financing that they're looking for, right? How do they fill that gap from local municipalities to make these projects really successful? And what it does is a lot of these, when they have all these local commitments, it helps developments at the when they go and apply for tax credit. So all these commitments, local commitments, really help these projects successful in the region. So here, my city of Inglewood, we're building left and right. If you've driven through the city, because of the Sophie Stadium and now the Clippers Arena, there's just development everywhere you look. So it's happening very rapidly, but the price of land is just soaring, and that's really what's hurting development right now. So thank you for listening, and any help you can do to move those efforts forward is definitely appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Roberto. You reminded me that I forgot to address a bill that I believe is sponsored by the South Bay COG, SB 1444, to establish the South Bay Regional Housing Trust. I see Jackie nodding her head, yes. And so this is exactly one of those tools that you were just talking about to establish the Housing Trust as a joint powers authority to provide participating South Bay cities to join this JPA so that we can provide more state funding to be able to help out with those projects, to help pencil out those projects. But having said that, I mean, I guess this kind of ties to my earlier question, and again, maybe this is a bigger philosophical question that we don't have enough time to really address. But my concern is that we know we all live in one of the most expensive regions in the entire country, and I used to sit on the board of a nonprofit community development corporation, affordable housing developer, and I love the great work that they do, but I always feel like it's kind of like the lottery. It's for people that are lucky enough to get one of those units. They win the lottery, but given limited money and given it limited time, to help save lives, people that are dying on the streets. I mean, it ties back to, for me, like I feel like as a matter of prioritization that we should be prioritizing, these tiny homes, these shelters that we could get people off the streets as quickly as possible, but of course, not at the expense of continuing the effort to build more permanent affordable housing. But I mean, I have to admit, I'm pretty skeptical, if not cynical, about whether how much we can beat this overall housing market. One of the most expensive housing markets in the whole country. It's great, for the units that we do build, for those that land one of those units, but from a broader policy perspective, it seems like, I actually introduced a bill to try to prioritize building interim homes and shelters, and the bill, as you might imagine, was quickly shot down, largely on the concern that kind of a prioritization would suck up all the money. I guess New York City had a similar right to shelter approach where the shelters sucked up all the money and didn't leave much money left for permanent housing development.
So we have one more. We have time for one more question, then we probably have to move on. But Paul Stansberry, he's the president of NAMI South Bay, and he also provides advocacy issues for the South Bay Coalition to end homelessness. Paul?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Assemblyperson Marisucci, for your support of the CARES Act. And NAMI is concerned about the coercive nature of it and the civil rights issue, but as a father of a person with a mental illness who's been on the streets of the South Bay with the homeless issue, who's had psychotic symptoms, it would have been very helpful to be able to have the CARES court. It is a solution which we need to make sure we use appropriately, but we appreciate your support of that motion and that legislation. Part of the issue and we also support the tiny homes. We do think that the permanent supportive housing is a long-term solution, but in the interim, tiny homes is certainly an approach, and even shelters, because we've had a lack of shelters in the South Bay, but we need to include all those, but we need to have mental health treatment connected with that. And one of the concerns is what we're hearing consistently is a staffing shortage throughout all the providers, through the LA schools, through the mental health department. I know State Senator Eggman had some legislation as a package to try to get some workforce assistance. So anything we can do to help create a more workforce will be very important to have mental health support for whether it be tiny homes or supportive housing. We need to make sure we have a workforce to support mental health treatment and services. So thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. If you have the Eggman bill number handy, I'm sure I hope I supported it, but that workforce issue, that's a real tough nut to crack. I know that I work a lot with our schools, and there was a big article in the LA Times on Sunday that you probably saw that talked about, there's all this funding for mental health professionals, mental health staffing, and we can't fill those positions, and so I'm not sure how exactly Senator Eggman was proposing to get more mental health care providers into the workforce, but that's a big headache. the state superintendent of public schools announced an initiative for 10,000 mental health counselors in our K through 12 schools. But it's one thing to put out a goal, but the reality seems to be that everyone is falling way short of even the funding that is being made available to fill those positions. But again, like with anything, I would love to work with all of you, in terms of any specific ideas you have, whether to get more mental health workforce, to streamline the building of affordable housing. If any of you agree that we should be prioritizing interim housing and shelters, would love to work with you also. But thank you, Ronson, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts. And,
Great. Thank you, Assembly Member, for dropping by, and you're welcome to stay. But again, thank you for listening and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So moving on, let's just go back to Sherry with some additional information about her organization's efforts in the South Bay.
All right, good afternoon. Just to add one other thing too, I think if we even wanted to build workforce, one of the things that I'm really kind of seeing here at Torrance Pallet Shelter is really a focus on employment. And since I've done a lot of the assessments for folks that are coming in, I've got people that have been plumbers before and everything else. And I'm just thinking if there's, journeyman projects, I'm thinking back all the way to Alameda Corridor, where they can learn a trade, earn an income and actually build housing that may help themselves and others behind them. I think it's another opportunity for us to think about how we can increase that workforce and, give back to the community at the same time. Anyways, I'm going to shut up because you got me on a roll already today. But some statistical updates. We are in our new fiscal year that started on July 1st, 2022. So San Pedro interim housing, we currently have 14 vacancies. We have been getting a lot of movement from the Holiday Inn in Long Beach, where they are demobilizing their PHK. So we've been taking a lot of referrals from that particular site. So I think we got 8 referrals last week alone. And the unique thing about this site is it is actually a recuperative care. So we have some people that have pretty significant health related issues. So it is kind of changing the dynamics of our shelter over there. But we've also got 3 more permanent housing placements. So kind of the tail end of some of our EHVs that have still been coming through. We've actually been able to secure housing. San Pedro Bridge Home currently have 24 vacancies, and they have gotten 10 people permanently housed at that site. Redondo Beach Pallet Shelter, they never have a vacancy. And they've had 2 more permanent housing placements, and I think they've got 2 more in the works. Torrance Pallet Shelter, we have 2 current vacancies, 1 permanent housing placement. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the housing plans that have been in place as I go through my report. CES for individuals, we've got 24 individuals that have been assessed this year, 2 that have been placed into permanent housing through, I gotta break the habit of saying recovery, rapid rehousing, time limited subsidies. And then another 4 that were placed through our CES housing navigation contract. And then some of our city contracts are Torrance Housing Navigation. We've had 4 permanent housing placements. Redondo Beach Housing Navigation, we've had 7 permanent placements. The Beach Cities contracts, we've had 8 permanent placements. And then in Manhattan Beach, we've had another 3. Got a lot of city contracts going on right now. Transitional Age Youth, we've assessed 4 people so far. And we've gotten 2 youth that are permanently housed. We've got 2 of them right now that we're working on that have EHV vouchers, so looking to secure housing for them. And then our family system, we've had a total of 14 people assessed, 10 that have been placed into permanent housing, and then another 5 that have retained their housing through prevention services. So, and we've seen quite an uptick in prevention related cases this year, and we expect those numbers to rise. As you know, I've been doing a lot of work out here at the Torrance Pallet Shelter, but in addition to that, I've been also putting my case management hat back on. So we've been doing a lot of matches to West Haven Permanent Supportive Housing, which is in the city of Athens, right across the street from Southwest College. This is a 57 unit site with units that are funded both through Department of Mental Health and Department of Health Services, and it'll be opening soon here in October of 2022. So for Torrance Pallet Shelter, we were fortunate enough to get 7 residents matched. We've got 4 that are doing their intake appointment tomorrow. So we've been running around getting everybody document ready, making sure they have, you know, what they need for that intake appointment, and we are ready to go for tomorrow. Redondo Beach Pallet Shelter had 2 residents that have been matched to West Haven. San Pedro Interim Housing has had 3 residents matched, and a Bridge Home in San Pedro has another 2 residents matched. And then there's, of course, since we do all the matching through our regional matcher, he's been able to also look at people that have been either connected through street outreach or housing navigation that met the criteria. So these are very high acuity, need to have an acuity score of 12 or greater. For the DMH beds, they have to have a certified diagnosis from either a clinician or a doctor. The DHS beds are a little bit more flexible, but again, you know, looking at an acuity score of 12 and extremely low income. So a lot of work is going into this. Had some really good conversations with the people concerned, who is going to be the operator at that site. You know, just making sure that we have everything prepared. We have our individuals prepared when we go over there. Been still working very closely with South Bay Workforce Investment Bureau. We've got one of our residents right now that is going through the guard card training. We've had another resident at Torrance that is now working full-time for our security company, Black Knight Patrol. So he's been taking on some work assignments and extremely happy. It's kind of funny when you see a resident coming in with the uniform, the same that have the guards on, but it was like, do you work here? Do you live here? But it's been a really awesome experience for him. And that company actually paid for the cost of securing his guard card. So they waived the cost of that and hired him on. Still been working very closely with Venice Family Clinic. Conversations about doing some street medicine through outreach. Because a lot of our folks, as you know, have, you know, all sorts of different disabling conditions, mental health, substance abuse, and physical health. So they're going to be starting to work with us on that. Very soon here in Torrance, we are getting another outreach housing navigator from Mental Health America. And this person will be a licensed clinical social worker. So really looking at the clinical aspect of supporting the work that's going on here. And Roberto, I'm glad you brought up the stabilization vouchers. We were just talking about those last week at the Continuum of Care Board. Because our concern is we've looked at the last wave of vouchers that came through, the emergency housing vouchers, and the housing authorities, not so much the smaller city ones, but HACLA and LACTA, and their capacity to process these. I think as providers, we can all say that the struggle's been real. We've been waiting months and months and months to get applications processed, to get the RFTA packet submitted, to get even the contracts submitted between the owners and the actual tenants. So, you know, we've actually been thinking about, does the housing authorities have the capacity staff-wise to take on now this next wave of these stabilization vouchers? So it's an active conversation that we're having at this time, because as long as there's not proportional capacity through all of these systems, we are going to continue to create these bottlenecks. And it's something that I think is a system-wide or even a pathway and a flow that we really need to look at and, you know, keep an eye on and see how we can support that. And then we've also got the unsheltered NOFO that is out. So it's always interesting when you got 2 notice of funding opportunities going out at the same time, but this is for unsheltered individuals. I think LA's got a really good opportunity to score high because they're looking at areas that have really seen an increase in street homelessness. So things like supportive services only, housing navigation, stabilization, permanent supportive housing, joint component projects like transitional housing and rapid rehousing, and then just standalone rapid rehousing funding. So that funding opportunity is also out there right now. So yes, I agree that right now we're kind of in a dry spell with resources that we have for our folks at interim housing, but I think there's some things that are on the horizon that'll benefit this population.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherry. Wow. You got a lot going on. We had a question from the assembly member. Why does the San Pedro Bridge home have so many vacancies?
We just got off a major quarantine that we were under for, God, I want to say it was just over a month. So we're also at a point too where we were decompressed to a level where we were down to 75 residents. So now we've been given the authorization by the Department of Public Health to increase that compression again. And it's always being cautious too, because this particular variant of the virus is very, very sneaky. And we're finding that a lot more people are picking it up in very sneaky ways. And then once it's inside an interim housing site, it spreads real quick.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Sherry, for that update. So just moving on, next up we have, I think a topic that isn't discussed as much, but it's super important, and it's kind of something that we probably should know about more. But it's child support services for those who are who maybe can't afford it or are having problems with it. So we have John and Lewis, Special Assistant Director to the Los Angeles County of Child Support Services, here to talk about this topic. John, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and take it away? I'll share my screen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. I am Jonna Lewis. I'm with the LA County Child Support Services Department. I'm going to share just a little bit of background about our office and what we do and some specialized services that we offer, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Next slide. So just a very brief history for anyone who's not aware of child support. The child support program was actually created by the Social Security Act of 1975. And at the time, the main reason for the creation was to try to recoup money that was being paid out through welfare for families that were separated. The program has evolved a lot since then. And currently, less than 25% of our caseload is aided families. The rest are formally aided or not aided at all. So it's a huge shift from how we started. The child support program is actually a top program in the nation that lifts children out of poverty. I don't think we're often thought of that way, but we're one of the top 3 programs in the country to do that. When child support is being paid into a low-income household, it actually accounts for almost half of the household income. So if you would take that away, it would reduce the household income for those low-income families by 50%. So it's an important part of that. Here in LA County, our caseload, we have over 200,000 children that we're serving through our cases here. And every year we collect over $500 million in child support, and about 90% of that goes directly to families. Next slide. The basic things that we help with are establishing parentage. So when children are born to unmarried parents, they have to take action to establish legal parentage for their children. So we can help with that. Even if parents don't need help with child support, if they're an intact family but they're unmarried, we can help them establish parentage for their children. The bulk of what we do, however, is we obtain court orders for child support, and they usually include a component for health insurance as well. We help with the court process of changing those orders when the orders need to be changed, and we also collect and distribute child support payments. A lot of times, parents come to us for help with other things, and we're really limited in what we can help with. We're federally and state funded, so it's very specific, the things that we can do. We cannot help parents with things like divorce, restraining orders, if they need help with custody, visitation, spousal support, things like that. but we will refer them to the court or family law facilitator if they need help in those areas. Next slide. So it's really easy to open a case in our office and request our services. We've tried to make it as easy as possible and have different ways of doing it to suit the needs of the families. I think the easiest way is just to complete an application online at our website, and our website is cssd.lacounty.gov. Parents can also request a paper application to be mailed to them. They can do that by calling our 866 number. They can log on to our website via live chat and live chat with us and request an application. They can text the word open to that special phone number and we will go ahead and mail it to them. Or anyone can walk into any one of our office locations and get an application in person. Next slide. There's two ways that we have to be involved in the process. So like I said, anybody can submit an application and open a case. But if children are in foster care or if they're receiving CalWORKs, so they're receiving public assistance in LA County, and one parent is not reported in the home, the Department of Public and Social Services will refer that case over to our office to open a case for child support. Currently, when we have a case open for child support and a child is receiving aid, that family does not get the full child support payment. If they have one child, they get the first $100 of the child support payment, and then the rest of it goes to the county to help reimburse the welfare. Or if they have two or more children, they get $200 of the child support payment, and the rest of it goes to reimburse the welfare. When they get off of aid, they would be entitled to receive the full child support payment, but any child support arrears that accrued while they were aided would still be owed to the government. However, that is set to change next year. Legislation passed in California that starting in July of 2023, if there are arrears owed on a case where the family was formerly aided, that money will go to the family instead of going back to the government. And there's also talk on the horizon that in 2025, there might be full pass-through to all families. So instead of getting $100 for one child or $200 for two or more children, that family would actually receive the full child support payment that comes in. And that would be fantastic because that would be more income into that family's household and would promote more self-sufficiency for those families. Next slide. So once we have a child support case open, that amount is not set in stone. And as we know, people's situations in life change. They lose their job, their hours get cut, something happens and they're not able to afford the payment that they were previously ordered. And that's okay. What needs to happen is we need to get that order modified or changed. So parents can always file directly with the court, but they don't have to. They can come through our office and we'll help them do that. All they need to do is complete an income and expense declaration, and that can be found on our website, or we can mail it to somebody or somebody can come in and receive it. And then once it's completed, they could turn it in person, they could email it to our special email address, or they could mail it to our office. And then we'll start the process to go to court to have the order reviewed to make sure that what they're ordered in child support is correct based on their current situation. Next slide. The state of California also has a debt reduction program. So when parents owe child support arrears, so that, you know, there's been a period of time that they weren't making their payments and they've built up a little bit of child support debt. If that money is owed to the government, so if it was while their children were receiving welfare or in foster care, we can actually compromise what they owe up to 100%. So somebody who has fallen behind in child support for whatever reason, and that money is owed to the government, they can contact us and apply for our debt reduction program. And based on their situation, we can reduce what they owe up to 100% actually. So if you know anyone or you come across anyone who has a child support case and they've fallen into arrears and you know, it's something they can't afford to pay or they're struggling, have them contact us so that we can work this out with them or even just set them up on a payment plan.
Quick question, Jonna.
Yes.
Sorry. Does that debt show up on someone's credit report?
Yeah, it does.
So that can hinder their ability to get housing, like on a credit check.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Good
this would be a great resource for people that have bad credit due to child support payments.
Yeah, and even if they apply for debt reduction and we're not able to zero out their arrears, but we can reduce it to a manageable amount and set them up on a payment plan, like if they say, oh, I can afford to pay $5 a month on my arrears or 10, that's fine. That would get reported to the credit agency that they have a payment plan and they're in compliance with it. So even if they had arrears, it would be reported positively that they're in compliance with their order. Good question. We also have a homeless referral process. So if at any time any of our participants on our cases, moms or dads, self-identify as being homeless or at risk of being homeless, or if our staff becomes aware otherwise, we have a homeless services referral program. There's a form that we complete and we email it to a CES provider, and then they will follow up to provide whatever services are needed for that parent. And then at the same time, we would review their child support case to make sure that all appropriate action is being taken. If their case needs to be reviewed to be changed for a modification, if they might qualify for the debt reduction program, if their license has been suspended due to failure to pay child support, but they need their license in order to get a job. These are all things that we would look at and help them with through our homeless referral process. And then these are just ways to get in touch with us. So we have office locations throughout the county. We also have a call center number. Our staff are there Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Participants are always welcome to call or email their caseworkers directly. We have live chat Monday through Friday from 7 to 5 p.m. on our website. The state also has a service called Customer Connect, and parents can log on to that and access their child support information 24/7. Also, if you guys have social media, I would encourage you to follow us. All our social media handles are at CSSDLA, and we share a lot of important information about programs that assist parents and also where we are out in the community. Next slide. So that brings me to my next slide, CSSD in the community. We have a pretty robust community engagement team, and the idea behind this is that it's hard for a lot of parents to come into one of our office locations. LA County is huge, and we only have 6 office locations throughout the county that are open, normal business hours, Monday through Friday. So our community engagement team actually goes out in the community and they set up in parks and libraries, at resource fairs, churches, things like that. And it's like, we call it our office without walls. They provide the same services in the community that somebody would receive in one of our office locations. And it's often much less scary. It's sometimes scary for folks to go into a government office, and we understand that, but they need our help, they need our services. So we try to bring it out to them in the community, in an area where they feel more comfortable, they feel safer talking to us, and it's easier for them to be with their kids at a playground and come up and talk to us at the table, or if they're going to their church for services, if we have a table there. So if you have any places like that you think child support would be helpful, you can email us at this email address, even if it's a resource fair, or if you have a group that you would like a presentation about child support to. Our community engagement team does that. They do a much better job than I do. This is not my regular job doing presentations. So they're the experts. They're really good at it. And you can contact them at that email address. Next slide. Or you can always contact me directly. If you have a customer or a client who has a child support issue, or you have a child support question, or you just need some advice or guidance, please feel free to reach out to me directly. That's my email address and that's my direct phone number. I would be more than happy to help. If I can't provide assistance, I know who can, and I will get you connected to the right person. So that's all. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, John. That I remember when I was doing homeless corps for the LA City, we would see specifically this guy. He was everywhere at all the homeless days. What was his name again?
Pete, that's Pete.
Pete,
Yep.
that's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I haven't seen him since the pandemic, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the casualties of the pandemic was Homeless Connect days. And so this is actually a good reminder that maybe at the COG, we should think about planning the next one, or at least our first one out of the pandemic. So that would be good. And we would love to have you if we do that.
We would love to be there. Thanks.
Cool. Any questions?
Any questions? No.
Okay. Well, if not, well, thank you, John, for that presentation. Again, it's a great resource, and so this is great information for our outreach teams and our case managers. Thank you so much. All right, so just moving on, what we want to do next is share some of an update of some of the programs that we have going on at the COG. And one of our programs we're very proud of, which is the Client Aid program, and wanted to give a quick presentation on what we're thinking about doing with the program, what it's done so far, and what our next steps for that program is. So let me just share that. Okay, so Client Aid. So we were getting feedback from outreach teams, case managers, saying that they needed funding like right away. Like they had a client who maybe has a voucher, just needs to pay for an application fee, or is at the DMV and needs to get his driver's license, and it's like $65 and they don't have any money. And so this program was started by my predecessor, Grace, and we've kind of improved upon it with debit cards and same-day check writing. And so that's kind of how this program came to be. It's actually funded through our Measure H Innovation Fund, and we've had other successes through that fund, like the homeless courts and the pallet shelters. So we've had the Client Aid now for more than a year, and we think we can declare it a success, and I'll share with you why. And we believe now that this program is ready to graduate from the Innovation Fund. Similarly, like the Redondo Beach Pallet Shelter, Redondo Beach Homeless Court, they've kind of are ready to take the next step. We believe Client Aid is also ready to take the next step to come out of the Innovation Fund and maybe get sustained funding for. And so again, this is just kind of going through what it is. It was based off feedback from our outreach workers, and it's designed to provide immediate funding. It's unique to other solutions like loss of problem solving, county prevention programs, and other state and local resources. The uniqueness about it is that we can provide same-day funding. The types of aid provided include motel stays. We can pay back rent. We can set people up, the first month's rent, as long as they have like a housing plan. We pay for rental utility deposits, rental application fees. The security deposits is a big deal because we've talked a lot about vouchers. Vouchers don't come with security deposits. Many people don't understand that, and so they're useless in a lot of instances if you don't have a security deposit. And so we're able to step up and provide a security deposit same day if needed. Moving assistance, transportation fees. We've moved people outside of the area so they can get employment somewhere else, or they got reunited with family. We can provide auto repair if their car is needed for their job. So there's just various things we provide out of Client Aid. And again, the key is that we provide same-day access to funds. We have $500 prepaid debit cards on hand that we can hand out to people, to our caseworkers, and we can also, if needed, do same-day check writing. Most of the time, though, what we're doing is reimbursing our nonprofits and our city partners. But these are all different ways we can get funds out and be deployed right away. So in terms of the performance results, after about 13 months from June, we started June 2021, and as of June 2022, we've dispersed roughly about $30,500, which is basically our budgets are around $50,000. So we've it's a small pilot program, so these aren't meant to be huge numbers. But we spent $30,500 and we dispersed funds to 27 clients. So it's on average about $1,100 per client. Of the 27 clients, 19 have been permanently housed, 4 have progressed on their housing plan and are actively looking for housing, and 4 have not progressed. So it's a very good return. 70% of client aid recipients have been permanently housed to date. We think that's a phenomenal number. And at $1,100, we think compared to other programs, this is very cost effective and a rapid way to get people housed. So we're very happy with what we've been able to accomplish so far. These are some case studies. We housed a gentleman at the turn of the new year. If you remember back in December, we had massive rainstorms. Our winter shelters were full. And this person, Aaron, he couldn't get into one of those shelters. So we got him into a motel. He subsequently tested positive for COVID. So it was great that he was in a motel so he could recover. And while he was recovering, he got his housing voucher. And once he was out of the motel, he was able to secure housing. So this was an instance where this person was having some health difficulties. He didn't have access to a shelter, but he did have a housing plan in place. And so we were able to get this person stabilized, and now he's permanently housed. We had a mother and a 3rd grade daughter living in their car. This was in Redondo Beach. Daughter goes to an elementary school there. She had a voucher. She just didn't have enough for the security deposit. So we paid the security deposit because this was around the Thanksgiving holiday. If she had waited, she would have gone through Thanksgiving, still living in her car. So we just said, no, we're not going to wait for loss of problem solving or other programs to approve the funds and deliver the funds. That's going to take weeks. We want to get her housed before the Thanksgiving holidays. And so that's what we did. We paid for the security deposit. She's housed, and she's been housed ever since. And her daughter no longer has to do her homework inside the car. She has a place where she can do that now. Another example of a success story is 405 lady. We talk about this all the time. She's been like kind of a fixture on the 405 off ramp on Inglewood Avenue and the 405. That's her favorite spot. She panhandles out there. She's been doing that for the past 5 years, and she was service resistant, but took a recent court order to kind of get her stabilized. And because of that, she is now open to services. And so after that court order was over, we wanted to get her into a bed situation, right? So because we didn't want her to return on the streets, because all that progress she made, getting the mental health care that she needed, we didn't want that to be wasted by her returning to the streets. So we put her into a motel, and unfortunately, a pallet shelter spot opened up pretty shortly after that. And so she's been stabilized, and now she's been matched to housing. So after 5 long years, and with the help of our client aid, looks like she's one step closer to getting fully housed. So those are some of the examples of how client aid has worked. And again, some of the differences between us, the most comparable program out there is loss of problem solving. But the feedback we've been getting from a lot of folks is loss of problem solving is very difficult. Our program is very easy. It requires a quick phone call to either me or Lori. We talk to the outreach worker about the case. We make an approval over the phone, and we have them fill out a Google form. It's a very simple form. Anyone can bookmark it, and we can provide same-day approvals. And problem solving involves like a paper form, and you have to get signatures, and approval process can take weeks or more. So you have to do all this work, and you're not even sure if you're going to get approval or not. And then the other thing about problem solving is the documentation process. We just require a receipt, and we want people to notate that they got client aid and HMIS. Problem solving requires receipts, and the case manager then needs to enter the case notes of that person in a separate problem solving module, separate from HMIS. So it's additional, bureaucracy that they have to jump through to get loss of problem solving funds. And then again, our funding is same day, whereas loss of problem solving can take 2 to 4 weeks. So imagine if you're a landlord and you want a security deposit, and loss of problem solving is telling you, nah, it's going to take 4 weeks before you can get a security deposit. You're not going to hold that unit for that client. And so that's where we feel client aid can step in and do a better job of providing this immediate aid than loss of problem solving. And then this I won't go into this, but this just talks about how we can do same day funding, but still maintain fiduciary integrity of the program. We have several checks and balances to make sure funds are not misspent. And so I feel like next steps for this program is we're looking to again try to pull this out of the innovation fund. We want to seek $350,000, so it's a jump from $50,000 to $350,000 annually. And we think we can assist about 250 clients with that. And we'd like to get some administrative support to help administer the program. So that is the update. And this is just a list of people that have used the program: Mary Agnes, St. Margaret Center, Lila, Dulce, Zoma at Torrance, Diana at Gardena. Christian Horvath was a supporter of this program when we put it together. And we're also starting to get Harbor Interface to use the program more. They are now holders of a debit card there as well. So yeah, we continue to see the program evolving, and we're happy where it is at now. And so we consider this a very successful innovation fund program. Any questions on that one?
I would just say that Ronson has brought me to the table on a lot of issues with homelessness. For example, it was hard for me to understand that a voucher came without a security deposit or without the requirements for funding that someone would need to get an apartment. And then to get that was taking so long. And so he worked very hard to get our board to approve something that's very extraordinary. We don't usually give out funding like this, but this is what started as a pilot for us. And we're pretty excited about the fact that if you make money available to people that are deserving, from people who exercise common sense and don't have to write, a lot of paperwork and wait forever to find out if it's okay, you can actually get people housed. And so we're hoping that we can spread the word and maybe get it's unfortunately nothing is cheap, but then as far as cost effectiveness, we think this is pretty cost effective. So I just wanted to throw in my endorsement that as someone who knew nothing about how this system worked, I think this is a really great way of getting solutions fast.
Ronson, you moved mountains to make this program happen, and I feel like client aid is my superpower.
Yeah, you have a lot of superpowers, Lori. So yeah, this is one of them. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. It's a team effort. It's not just me, for sure. And we're hoping that we could use this in more cities in more effective ways as well. So it's going to evolve, and you'll hear more about it. But also wanted to provide updates on other cities as well. Let's see. Let me share another slide. Lori, do you want to? Lori, you got three of these slides. You want to go ahead?
Guess I need to unmute myself first. Okay. You've heard me many times talk about the Home Share South Bay program, which was slow going through COVID, but it's really picked up traction. So year to date, we have had 21 homeowners sign up. So I've got a few in the works I'm talking to, 54 home seekers or potential tenants. We've had 3 actual matches. I believe we've actually had more than that, but sometimes people sign up through our program and maybe the homeowner actually matches with somebody that's not on our program or vice versa. So we definitely have been influential in getting more people to understand and accept the home sharing concept. So Silvernest recently made some changes, and so our landing page looks a little bit different, but all of their efforts are to streamline the process, make it really better security and more user-friendly with more transparency. We wanted to mention we're talking to Miriam Hall, who runs she's the home share program director with the Affordable Living for the Aging. She runs a similar program, but what's different with hers is she focuses mostly on older adults. And for people who really only want to, will accept renting for $600 to $800. So you can get those seniors who are on a fixed income. And her program, she actually is hands-on. She meets, inspects their homes, talks with people, and she's truly a home sharing matchmaker. You go to the next slide, Ronson. So Ronson wanted me to cover quickly the Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach homeless court. So we've had Redondo Beach for a while, and it got expanded to Hermosa Beach recently in July. Redondo Beach continues to really be successful with their programs. Of course, having the pallet shelter there certainly helps. So these are just some statistics just on the first 2 quarters of the year with Redondo Beach. You know, I like seeing, you know, clients housed in interim housing, 18 people, and housed in permanent housing, 8. And then there's some information since the program even started. And as you heard Sherry say, they never have any vacancies. They always have a waiting list. So we're looking forward to seeing how the expansion works in Hermosa Beach. And right now, as far as the scheduling, they've kind of been alternating 1 month in Hermosa, 1 beach in Redondo. And I think they're going to be working on finalizing a schedule there. And Sherry pretty much gave us updates on what we're calling the Torrance Temporary Village. You look at the numbers, they speak for themselves. The people are not only getting enrolled there, but our pets are getting enrolled there too. But as Sherry showed us, having the Venice Family Clinic there to offer triage of healthcare right there on site is great. They talked about the employment assessments, working with that South Bay Workforce Investment Board, have 4 people that have gained employment. I think this is a major success story, and I'm anxious to see other cities look into doing similar work.
Yeah, what's great that's not mentioned on this is the number of public spaces the city has been able to reclaim. I think it was like 19 people from Columbia Park they got out of the park. Several more from, I think there was like half a dozen number of parks. They even got 3 people out of the Alamo Mall. So yeah, just reclaiming public spaces, you know, that's a big thing. So that seniors and our kids can enjoy those public spaces. You know, so I think that's one thing that's very important as well. Let's see, moving on. So Hawthorne LA Cotta. So our LA Cotta program is funded also by the Innovation Fund. It's providing 2 intensive case management workers to the city of Hawthorne. As of September, they have 190 active clients. Just in the month of July, they touched 150 unique clients. So the numbers coming out of Hawthorne are pretty big for the South Bay. Year to date, they put 40 clients into interim or permanent situations, which is great. And then including 7 behavioral health beds that we've licensed with LA Cotta, and we're looking to increase that. So this has been a great program. It's been a great start. You know, unfortunately in that area of the South Bay, Hawthorne, Gardena, Lawndale, Carson, we don't have any shelters there. So it's going to be tough to bridge people from the street into permanent situations without that solution. And so we're going to be working closely and looking at the numbers and seeing what we can do to work either around that or maybe figure out a creative way to advocate for some sort of bridge situation where we can put people in so that they have a place to you know, to recover from the streets and to enter into as a launching pad into a permanent situation. In Gardena, they've engaged with focused strategies to work on a homelessness plan for the city. Currently, they're engaging in stakeholder meetings. Jacqueline Arcos is back in their community office. She's always been a great person. They deal with a lot of homelessness, people experiencing homelessness in their office, and so we work with them closely to kind of help mitigate situations that come in on a week-to-week basis. And Diana Espinoza has been designated their homelessness coordinator in the city. So we look forward to continuing working with her to help with Gardena's homelessness situation. We have 2 case managers through our Innovation Fund in the Beach Cities area, for El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, and Redondo Beach. Year to date, they've helped 64 clients. 5 have gone to an interim shelter, and 9 have been placed into housing. See, and this is on top of other services that the cities also employ. Manhattan Beach has their own housing navigator, as does Redondo Beach. So this is just supplementing some of the services that some of these other cities already have. Other cities, Rancho Palos Verdes is now contracting with a consultant on their homelessness plan, and their plan will cover not only just Rancho Palos Verdes, but the entire peninsula. Inglewood is also in the process of contracting for a homelessness coordinator for the Innovation Fund. And then some non-Innovation Fund cities, Lawndale, we mentioned before, is currently doing weekly outreach with PATH. And Carson has restarted their monthly task force meetings, which we are a part of. And they're also looking to hire a homeless coordinator. So a lot of activity going on in the South Bay. And we mentioned some of this before. Some of the roadblocks we're working on, client credit scores continue to be a problem. We're seeing as much as over a third, if not 50% of EHV clients being rejected due to their credit scores. So these are folks that have vouchers, have the subsidy, but still cannot get an apartment because of their credit backgrounds. So we're looking, our next step is to maybe meet with the Apartment Owners Association to kind of get their take on the problem and see if we can figure out a solution. So LASA is reprioritizing the housing navigation and reducing the amount of time limited subsidies. I think overall, like I said before, some of the tools in our toolshed are being diminished, although it's good to hear about the stability voucher program. But we're working on other things to kind of get more help here. Talking to SHARE to provide more shared housing. We're talking to the county about Project Home Key 3.0, looking at potential for scattered site housing opportunities. And maybe even revisiting using church properties. Churches are the largest landowners in LA County, and so that could be still a good resource for potential more housing opportunities. We're looking into our priority 1A is housing. Priority 1B for the COG is mental health gaps. What are they and how can we fill them? So we're currently researching that. We would like to do like a field trip with some of our electeds to visit some facilities to gain a better understanding of what help is out there and what more help we can bring into our region. And data, data has kind of been the toughest thing, I think, the toughest roadblock I've faced on this job. In every other industry, I've been able to use data to solve complex problems. In homelessness, I just cannot do it because I am not granted access to the data. We did hire a data intern, which I'm very happy about. She's one of our superstars from PATH, Jillian Stuckey. Fortunately for her, she's on a European vacation right now, which I'm super jealous about, but she's going to be coming back and helping me with data. I'm hopeful that we can get access to data soon so she has something to do. We think data can unlock a lot of wisdom and knowledge of how to custom tailor solutions for our cities, because we believe every city is different. They have very unique homelessness problems. And without analyzing that data, we're not going to provide solutions custom tailored for them. And I believe wholeheartedly that is a gap and not just the South Bay, but the entire county's homelessness strategy is they're not looking at data in a way that other industries are looking at data. And so I'll just get off my soapbox on that, but that's a big concern I have. And I was hoping to get into homeless count numbers, but we don't have them yet. They're coming out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And that's all I have. Any questions on that? Cool. All right. If there is none, we can move on. So next on our agenda, we have other legislative updates. So anyone, feel free to raise your hand or go ahead and if you have some updates, feel free to share with the group.
Nothing from my end this week. Everybody was on congressional recess in August. So hopefully next month I'll have something for you.
Ivan, welcome. For everyone, Ivan is the homeless deputy for Supervisor Hahn.
Yes, hello. It's a pleasure to be here today at this meeting with my colleague Jennifer Lamarque, who I'm sure you guys are used to seeing all the time. Just wanted to be on here just to say a couple things that are going on. As you know, Ronson just mentioned that tomorrow at 11 a.m. There's a briefing regarding the 2020 homeless counts, showing the numbers for City of LA and the county. Please mark your calendars. You can go to the LASA's website to find out the information. But, I recommend you be on that briefing. I would tell you what the numbers are, but then Lawson would kidnap me in the middle of the night if I said them, because I promised I wouldn't. So I'll let you guys see them tomorrow at 11. Just want to highlight again, and then I know this has been discussed, but the importance of Project Home Key. As you know, in the South Bay through Project Home Key 2.0, we've been able to acquire the best, is it the best one? No, is it the Best Western? I think yes, the Best Western in San Pedro on First and Gaffey, that's going to be exclusively utilized for our homeless veterans in partnership with the Long Beach VA. And so that's currently going to be operated by the Volunteers of America. We're hoping to partner up with the COG. We should be doing renovations very soon. I believe they're working with the City of LA on permits, and they're hoping, knock on wood, to have people move in by Christmas time. So hopefully we can, by Christmas time, have it filled with some veterans. In addition, the Home Key program has allowed our district, Supervisor Han's district, to have the most Project Home Keys. At 7 Project Home Keys. We have 1 in Pedro, 2 in Long Beach, 1 in Norwalk, 1 in Whittier, now another 1 in Whittier, and the 1 in Studio 6 in Commerce. I think that's all of them. As Sherry was saying, there was some decompression from the Long Beach Home Key. We've currently stopped the decompression. We've extended Home Keys. The reason why we were doing referrals out is because we recently did an RFP looking for developer partners to renovate, because the goal of Project Home Key was to turn these motels and hotels into permanent supportive housing. And so we're diligently working to work with the new developers that we've selected for each Home Key, and working with them to renovate and then turn them into permanent housing. In addition, there will be a motion on Tuesday's agenda regarding RVs. Since I know we've been seeing a lot of RVs pop up, particularly in other cities and unincorporated areas. So there will be a motion on the agenda authored by SD2 to establish a county-wide RV encampment pilot program, looking at different hotspots within the county. And in addition, getting together a comprehensive plan, which is funding, looking at, establishing sort of a protocol, what the staffing is, looking at hotspots, looking to establish safe parking RV sites in each supervisorial district. And then it goes on and on, targeting at least 500 people living in RVs and looking to dismantle a certain minimum of RVs. So it's a pretty lengthy motion, but it does have some concrete work and efforts to really address the RV issue. And so we hope that passes on Tuesday, and that would be extremely beneficial. And then lastly, I do want to highlight that we did receive some initial feedback from our CEO's office that has been working on the outcomes regarding the Blue Ribbon Commission's 7 directives, which were, if you don't remember, 1 was to create a county entity or to identify a county leader. 2, Measure H and local solutions, basically getting more partnerships with our cities and COGs. Streamlining LASA and their operations, working on the continuum of care governance. This is the structure of the commission, of the other policy making groups, such as I believe they have a policy council and the COC council at LASA to sort of streamline that. Working together to improve LASA's operations, data metrics, and then lastly, Directive 7, which was working to create a sort of a small executive level group that's represented by key city representative stakeholders to really, be there to make important decisions within the homeless system. And so CEO is working on these 7 recommendations. We still haven't seen or heard back what this entity, this which is the big question, which is what is this, create a county entity to sort of take charge looks like, but we're waiting to hear back very soon to see what that structure looks like from the Blue Ribbon Commission recommendation. So that's all I have to report right now.
Great, thank you, Ivan. Ivan also MCs in his spare time. He MC'd the Torrance shelter opening, so did a great job on that. Thank you.
Yes,
Ivan, for
that was a great project, and I thought I saw Zolma, and maybe she's gone. Oh no, I see her right there, and Viet, great partners in getting this project done. It felt like forever. Felt like like you're planning a wedding. Like, oh my gosh, the date's coming up. The date's coming up. We gotta finish this, and so we're very glad to see the pallet shelter. Well, no, I'm sorry, not the pallet shelter. I forgot what it is though. Number.
Temporary village, yeah.
Yes. And so we're very happy.
3290 temporary housing village.
Yes, the temporary housing village. We're very happy to see it up and running, and hopefully, knock on wood, we continue that partnership.
And so the next one will be the Home Key site. Can't wait for that. Laura, did you have a question?
Yeah, a couple things. Well, thank you, Ivan. Thank you for the Blue Ribbon update, and thank you really for the RV work. I'm looking forward to seeing that. There's over 300 dilapidated RVs in the Harbor Gateway in the unincorporated area, so we need to address this. That's great. But I just thought, since we're talking about legislation, might be sort of an opportune time to let people know that people experiencing homelessness can register to vote. We have an upcoming election. What better way for people to advocate for themselves than at the voting booth? And so, I have it written down. October 24th is the last day to register to vote, to be able to vote in the November 8th election. If somebody doesn't have an address, they can use an address of a friend. They can use a PO box or a business that would agree to accept mail for them. Okay, so long as they meet the qualifications, I think we need to share that at the shelters and where people are who are experiencing homelessness, so they can have a voice. And also, we need to be posting everywhere, reminding people to register before October 24th. So that's my pitch.
And then can I add to that? Because we just met with the county register recorder who was looking for locations, and actually, gosh, I forgot people experiencing homelessness vote, but as you said, yes, and we should be promoting that. And so at Sherry or the city, there is an opportunity to have the county register recorder go to one of the interim housing sites, home key sites, I forgot the name of the Torrance shelter, but that one too, where they could have voting time there. So if the residents want to vote, and as you said, Lori, do that, their civic duty in doing that, we would be more than happy to partner up with anyone in getting that to happen.
I may hit you up on that, Ivan.
Great. Any other legislative updates?
I think I'm next on the agenda, and I was going to talk about our two pieces of legislation. One, Assemblyman Marisucci was fantastic in carrying a bill that did get signed to create any neighborhood electric vehicle plans in the South Bay. This has to do with creating our local travel network, which is going to promote local traffic in the South Bay and help people get around, excuse me, in a fun and safe way. But the other bill that we're also waiting for, he did mention as well, which is SB 1444, which is on the governor's desk, and it would create a South Bay Regional Housing Trust. Once that bill is signed, assuming that it is signed, we will be coming out with next steps, which is to actually form the housing trust, who's going to be on the board and how it's going to work, and all of the logistics of creating that. And at the same time, there is that bill that I think Lori mentioned, which is SB 679. If that's signed by the governor, that's Senator Kamlager's bill. And if that's signed by the governor, the COG will have a seat at the table on the formation of that agency. So it creates a new agency. And so we'll be monitoring that as well. And then we also are going to be developing our program for next year and what we want to try to accomplish in the legislature next year, which we're going to be getting back to our representatives about. I'll go on, Ronson. I wanted to mention our September board meeting. There's a couple items that might interest you. The board is going to have a very brief discussion, I think, on ballot measures. Not very many of them on the November ballot really apply to cities directly. So we're not anticipating taking a lot of positions, but that is on the agenda. We have our standard, which has now become quarterly, but we have a report from the Department of Public Health, SPA 8, which is part of our trying to stay closer to SPA 8 and have the cities understand what the County Department of Public Health is doing and vice versa. And then we also have the Beach Cities Health District coming. They're opening up an Alcove Youth Wellness Center that should be available for not only their own jurisdiction, but I think for youth throughout the South Bay. And I think it's opening in October, and they're going to be coming to the September board meeting to tell the board what that's all about and the services that they'll be creating or offering there. So it's an interesting meeting. It's September 22nd. It will either be hybrid, which means people will be in person in our office, and also Zoom. We're going to keep the Zoom element, and we have a rule, just so you know, within 3 days of the time of the meeting, unless we get 8 board members to say they're coming in person, then we make it a virtual meeting. If 8 members say they're coming in person, then we make it a hybrid meeting. So that's the way we do that. On our fiber, we just applied to the Public Utilities Commission for a grant that would help us plan for disadvantaged communities and also neighborhood digital centers. And we're hoping to hear by the end of September about that grant. And we're also working on expanding the network. But I did want to talk to you about SCAG. SCAG is giving us, Southern California Association of Governments, gives us money for REAP, which is the Regional Early Action Plan. It's a program that they gave us funding to do projects that should promote housing. And we have 4 projects that we're doing with this funding. The first project is completed. And these came from our cities. We asked our community development directors what they wanted to do with the money from SCAG, and they came up with these 4 projects. So the first one is SB 330 forms. There's a law called, that's SB 330 affectionately known as, and when you have a certain kind of a parcel of property, you have to, in order to preserve it, I think you have to fill out these forms. Instead of all of our cities trying to figure out how to comply with that, we were able to have our planner work with our community development directors and a lawyer to certify a form that has now been given out to all of the cities, so that when someone wants to, has that requirement, they have a single form and they didn't have to do it themselves. So that project is completed. Second project has to do with accessory dwelling units. And right now we have, I think, 8 cities that are agreed to be part of our accessory dwelling unit study. And what we're doing is we're trying to truth test what people think about accessory dwelling units. We're sending out a survey. We're trying to find out, are people, there's anecdotes like this accessory dwelling unit is used for a gym and that one's used for an office, and I've got my mother coming in here. So is it really available to a low-income person? So what contribution are they making to affordable housing? And we're trying to get that kind of information in the South Bay so that we can find out how to make them more adaptable to affordable housing and how they're really being used. We have a survey going out to I think it's 8 cities, asking people who own a unit if they will tell us who they rent to and how much the rent is and what problems they had with the city in approvals and those kinds of things. It's anonymous. And then we're sending it out to the people that live in the accessory dwelling units, asking them how much rent they pay and that kind of thing. So we have a consultant that's working with us, Black & Veatch, and hopefully we'll be able to understand the complexion of our accessory dwelling units when the study is over. The third thing we're doing is we're working with another very high-powered consultant team, Studio 111 and Cosmot Associates, and we're working on looking at the commercial development in the South Bay that is non-performing. So looking at sites that could possibly be used for conversion to housing. And that consultant is looking at, I think there's 6 or 7 cities in that. When I say there's certain cities, we couldn't do all 15. So we asked certain cities to sign up, and then we're going to share the results. So all of these studies will go to the benefit of all of the cities. but we definitely wanted to sort of zero in on certain cities. So that commercial redevelopment is just getting started. They're looking at parcels and they'll be talking to cities. And then the fourth component has to do with housing education. We're setting up I think it could be as much as 10 workshops where we're going to actually have housing education for the city family, people that are interested in why, how housing works, what are the stakeholders. We're vetting the curriculum right now, but one of the kinds of interesting things that I think is we want to have a session on when a developer says to a city, it doesn't pencil out, what does that mean? What is he using in his pencil to make it pencil or not pencil? And we have funding from Cssd in this grant to get to pay speakers to come. So we're looking for expert speakers who will come and speak to our city family on the issues that would be helpful for us all to know about housing. So those are our 4 projects. Cssd is also working on REAP 2, which is a whole other program where we're probably going to get a similar amount of money, and we don't know what to do with it because they keep changing their framework. So we're trying to figure that out. We'll be back with more ideas once we know what we can do with the money. So I think that covers, the only other thing is for those of you that are interested in senior services, our senior services meeting is September 27th at 9:30 in the morning. So I think that's it. Ronson or Lori, do you think I forgot anything?
No, thanks, Jackie. Thanks for the update. All right, Lori, do you want to share your screen? We had one other quick update, and Paul, this actually pertains to you. So I don't know if you want to say something, but it's about the Suicide Prevention Month activities.
I'm trying to share the screen. I've got too many files open. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Ronson. I've got it open on my screen and I'm having trouble.
Okay, I can share it. Let's see. Here we go. I got it.
Oh, I just had it. Okay.
I beat you to it.
And I just want to tell everybody that September is Suicide Prevention Month, which is, did you want Paul to tell about these?
Yeah.
Or
Can I can, thank you, or maybe I can say, this is Suicide Prevention Month. And as you may be aware, unfortunately, in the last several years, we've seen an increase among youth, especially with issues with suicide, and suicide ideation or suicide loss. And that's become even more active and exacerbated during the COVID, when there have been more issues with among youth and dealing with suicide issues. And not just youth, but also other issues also. But so NAMI, this is BC's health district has a special training called QPR. It's really based upon question, persuade, refer. And so it's a training which hopefully maybe you can take advantage of or refer people to. We're having a workshop on September the 19th also, which deals with a workshop by the Chief Medical Director for NAMI National, which tells the stories of people who have had suicide loss, how to make meaning of loss. And that's also something which you may be aware of. And we hope to have also people from the South Bay comment upon the webinar and process with that. Unfortunately, we've seen among some of our members some recent suicide loss. We had a family where a young lady just not too long ago jumped off the Palisades cliffs. She's survived amazingly and fortunately in the process of this. So it is definitely an issue we were having throughout our community. We want to try to make sure people are aware of that. And the QPR type training by offered by BC's Health District is part of that, is to really say something. If you hear something, you say something, and how to get people to not be afraid about commenting or talking about suicide loss and dealing with it, that there can be meaning from that. So that's a flyer which Lori's making available. So thank you for the time.
and Paul, that meeting happens to conflict with our senior services working group meeting. Do you know if this will be recorded so I can watch it later?
Yes, I can record it, make it available.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Cool. Great. All right, we can open it up to anyone else. Also, by the way, 988 is up too. That takes, if you dial 988, it takes you to the suicide prevention hotline. So that's another thing want to just throw out there.
Hey, Ronson. So I just want to go ahead and mention SB 914. So right now, SB 914, Rainbow Services, Downtown Women's Center in California, Partnership to Domestic Violence, have been working on this bill. And it's got into both houses and it's gone to the governor's office ready to be signed. So we're just kind of waiting on signature. So if there's anyone who wants to go ahead and submit any support letters, we appreciate that. We have templates available. And I guess just in essence for like what this bill would do, it would kind of guide like cities, counties, and anyone who receives funding for homeless services to go ahead and direct those towards domestic violence survivors. So yeah, any
Great.
questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Gabrielle. Thanks. Good hearing from you. Councilmember Montero, yeah, a question.
I know I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you to all of you, especially all the providers that has been helping the unhoused people in Hawthorne. Like you mentioned on the Lacada, have 190 contacts, and the path, to housing somebody in Lomina and Wilmington. So I want to say thank you to all of you, because it's hard to be out there, try to get the unhousing people in places, and especially Hawthorne. We've been having difficulties of building affordable housing, even to move forward with tiny homes, right? Because we have something in mind, but we got a lot of challenge there. And then even for the homeless veterans, that Skid Row still have not begun the foundation to build those homes. So we have a lot of challenge ahead of us, but my head goes to all of you, and thank you for, to give the unhoused a sense of humanity that they deserve. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember, for those comments. Yeah, we're looking forward to working with Hawthorne more closely, especially with LA CADA. I think the numbers coming out of there are going to be really interesting. I directed them to kind of give me a report on kind of where they're seeing the folks, like what parks are they at, what park benches, what sidewalks, so that we can then narrow down and share that information with you all at Hawthorne, and then really develop, like I said, custom tailored solutions for your city so we can get those numbers down.
All right, fantastic, thank you.
Great. Anything else? All right, well, thanks everyone for coming to our September meeting. Our next meeting is November 2nd, and yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks everyone.
Good meeting, boss.